Welcome to Module 9, where we're going to discuss creativity and getting into the flow. So before we start, let's just take a moment just to check in. Take a deep breath in, breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. Scan the body from head to toe and just check in with the mind. Putting any worries or concerns aside while we look at this module on creativity and flow. Opening the eyes, coming back. So welcome to Module 9, Encouraging Flow and Creativity. Purpose of this module is really to get present to how we can encourage this flow. Sometimes we know that we're very creative. Sometimes we get blocked. There's certain blocks to our creativity. So this is about unlocking those blocks and really getting into the zone. So what did you take on last week and what results did you get? Just take a moment and just ponder on those. Because this is about celebrating every step of the way. Sometimes we quickly move on to the next thing and we forget to actually take stock and reflect on what we have achieved. So just a reminder as to why you chose this group. It's practical, it's interactive, it's goal-orientated, and it's about celebrating life. We're already good enough just the way we are. And what we're doing here is just raising awareness on those things that perhaps cause extra suffering in our life that we can reduce. So we're going to look at what is flow and creativity. We're going to look at what are the blocks to creativity and flow, and then how we can actually encourage flow and creativity in our day-to-day lives. So what is flow and creativity? Sometimes we think maybe creativity is just something that's to do with artists, but it can come out creativity in many different ways. We can be creative with numbers, we can be creative with words. So let's have a look. So being completely involved in an activity for its own sake, the ego falls away. Time flies. Every action, movement, and thought follows inevitably from the previous one, like playing jazz. Your whole being is involved, and you're using your skills to the utmost. This is what being in the flow is about. We've all been there. So let's have a look at the concept of being in the zone. So we all know what our comfort zone is, and then there's a fear zone, and then there's a learning zone, and then a growth zone. So being in the flow, you can apply to any learning experience. So if you look at the right-hand side chart, where you've got the difficulty on the left and you've got the player ability, your ability to take in the information. And then you've got boredom section and you've got the anxiety. So in the middle is the flow. So when you're listening to something or you're learning something and you're in tune with it and it's not too difficult and you're able to take and you're not bored, then you're in the flow. Whereas if it's something that is really stretching you and it's very difficult, you may get a bit anxious about it. So you won't be in the flow. So the 4 elements of being in the zone are selflessness, timelessness, effortlessness, and richness. That's when you know that you're in the zone. So let's look at creativity and our definition of creativity. An act of creativity can be grand and inspiring, such as creating a beautiful painting or designing an innovative new product. But an idea need not be artistic or world-changing to count as creative. It could be creative cooking. You create something new. It's not going to change the world, but it's an expression of creativity. So let's have a look at the different types of creativity. So we have this model where we've got cognitive, emotional, and then we've got deliberate and spontaneous. So the Newton and the apple falls from the tree, it's spontaneous, bang, there's a cognition, and there's a formation, a mental formation of creativity. Let's look at musicians, where there's an emotional element and it can be spontaneous. So if when someone's doing a jamming session, they're just spontaneously putting the notes together. And then we've got cognitive and deliberate. So that's Thomas Edison with the light bulb, failure after failure, and then gets to develop the light bulb. And then the final one is emotional and deliberate. So these are these therapeutic and these aha moments. So they're the 4 types of creativity. But let's look at it a bit further in terms of the how we get to those types. And there's different skills and thinking that happens. There's divergent thinking. There's lateral thinking. There's systems thinking, aesthetics thinking, inspirational thinking. So the creativity can come from those different types of thinking. So now just start to think, when are you most creative and when have you been in flow recently? Just take a moment to think, am I most creative in the mornings or the evenings? And when is it that I'm completely focused? Selflessness doesn't come into it. Time goes out the window. And you have this richness quality and joy of being in the flow. So I can give you an experience from my life, which is when I'm practicing yoga. I can be completely in the zone, connected to the essence of yoga and just being in the posture. So let's look at let's look at some of these blocks to creativity and flow. Because there are sometimes blocks. I mean, even though we're very creative as a tribe, but sometimes things get in the way and it limits our creativity. So let's look at what those are. Okay, so number one is fear of failure. 100%. Sometimes we don't want to get started on something, a project, because we're already set ourselves up for failure. We're already creating this inauthentic fear in our mind that it's not going to work or it's going to fail, and you're making it to mean that failure is the end of everything. And it's not. It's what we make it to mean in our heads. Number two, reluctance to play. Yeah, I'm not playing. No, I'm not playing. So that can block the creativity. Resource myopia. I haven't got time. No time, no time, no time. We don't see or manage the resource of time. It can block our creativity and flow. We don't give ourselves enough time to be creative. The other one is over certainty. We can be so sure of ourselves, so the ego takes over. We don't need to be creative. And that can, by being overconfident, we can actually block creativity and flow. And the final one is frustration and avoidance. This feeling of aversion, pushing away. No, I'm not going to do it. That blocks the creativity and flow. So what are your blocks to flow and creativity? Take a moment and just ponder on that. Right here, right now, what are your blocks to flow and creativity? What is stopping you creating the life that you want? So I can share from my own life that getting involved in technical websites, setting things up, I was blocked for a couple of years on this fact through fear of failure. I was so concerned with the fear of failing that I would never even start, because then I haven't failed, but it just blocked what I wanted to achieve. So how to overcome that was through understanding what the block was and rewriting the story in my head and saying it is okay to fail. It's okay if you get it wrong. Just play with it, bring playfulness into it, and just do it as a test, as a trial. It doesn't have to be final. Nothing is final. Just play with life, play with your creativity. So here's what someone else does. Harris Moore. When I'm stuck, I just search for excitement, but not too hard. It is when I find myself playing more than trying that I find my way out of the block. So it's a key point, is this play element. So let's look at other ways. How can we encourage flow and creativity in our lives? It's got so much to offer. There is so much. Each one of you has a precious human life. And you can do whatever you want to do with the right mindset. So how do we encourage it? Okay, well, it comes back to the key element is setting powerful intentions. And this is something that we spend a lot of time on at the beginning of the group coaching course, is because the intention, the why we do what we do, is so important, and it's important to make it visual. So you have that reminder, you put it up in your office, you have that reminder of what your intention is. So every action that you do, you can say, is it in line with my intention? Second thing, so important, is give yourself permission to be human. We are going to mess up. We are going to make mistakes. Does anyone know a baby that didn't fall over when they learnt to walk? No. It's part of the nature. It's part of being human. Nobody's perfect. So it's learn to fail or fail to learn. Really get this point. Learn to fail or fail to learn. Other things that you can do to encourage creativity is to incorporate breaks for downtime. Let your mind wander. Let this randomness come in, because when you do and you allow for that, then that's sometimes when the best ideas come out. And this is something for anyone who is running an ad agency or any type of creativity where you need to generate ideas. This is a must to have people with ADHD on your team. Because they're an asset. They can create those ideas. They have full of ideas. It's letting them enhance it and giving them the space and the environment for them to express it. You can also raise awareness of what's holding you back, like I did. through meditation and mindfulness training. You can use affirmations to boost your confidence and to remind yourself that you are a creative being. Focus on one thing at a time. One thing at a time. Yes, we all know that we don't multitask, and that's one of the main traits of ADHD. But just try doing one thing at one time. I've got a block of creativity for 2 hours. I'm going to come up with ideas, and that you just do that. You can also change your environment to reduce those distractions, and you can practice the beginner's mindset. Start with a blank canvas. Forget everything that's been done before. Just blank canvas. There it is. Bring the beginner's mind to it and go with it. And the final thing, which is one of the most important elements, is introduce playfulness into the process. Make it fun. Life is to be enjoyed. So here's a wonderful summary from Deepak Chopra about intentions. Intentions and goals equal transformation. Attention and concentration equals creativity. So take a moment, ponder on what you can do, what you can take on this week to encourage creativity and flow into your life. Commit to doing one thing between now and next week. There's another wise words. It's really nice to bring these quotes in because then you're getting a perspective from different people who have been down this journey. So Lisa Golightly says, I give myself permission to just make for the sake of making without any thought at the outcome, which can be surprisingly hard. What I would tell my younger self is this: there is no right way to make art. The only wrong is not trying, not doing. Don't put up barriers that aren't there. Just get to the work and make something. So here's the invitation to do the work. Now, raise your awareness of these blocks to creativity and flow. Because then when you understand what's holding you back, then you can work on it. If you're not clear, you don't know what it is, then it's very difficult to work on it. So set powerful intentions for your work time this week. Use the daily planner. Set those intentions. Reward yourself after and give yourself compassion when you make mistakes, because you will make mistakes, and give yourself permission to be human. So if you have any questions, please get in touch by email, or you can book a good discovery call in. Happy to have a chat with you through anything that comes up from these presentations. So this is all about transformation, and it's about the choice point that we have to create the world that we really want to live in. Deepak Chopra on Letting Go says, do you want to become a prisoner of the past or a pioneer of the future? Ask yourself this question. And then you get the answer, then act on it. If you're happy being a prisoner of the past, that's fine too. But if you want to be a pioneer of the future, then change it. Get a different result. Always welcome to feedback. Here's some of the resources that you can look at. So Xander Garcia wrote a book on humans in flow, and he's one of our guest speakers on the podcast. We've got Finding Flow, Rebel Ideas, Living in the Flow State. There's been a lot of research that's been done on this flow state. So please have a look at some of the research studies. And also to get into that flow, there's useful apps that you can explore. So just reiterating the Buddha's point here, we are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. So what are you going to create this week for your world?